If you've ever wondered how the pros get their vocals to glue perfectly with the rest of the mix, and how they get them to sound so polished, clear, and full, this video is for you. It's one of the most common questions we see, and in my experience, I've heard countless amateur mixes that have this exact problem we're about to cover in this video. First, I'll explain the problem and show you what it sounds like. Then, I'll simplify the steps to fixing it and explain the exact thought process behind every mix decision. So let's start with analyzing this mix before we touched anything. The vocal sounds kind of disjointed, almost like it doesn't belong with the rest of the mix. It sort of sounds like the vocals are in one place and the rest of the mix is somewhere else. Take a listen.
I didn't know you would have me whip like that, no. I'm swimming in your love, baby, backstroke. Got me spending all my money, baby, cash flow. But I don't mind it all for you, it's just special.
So the vocal is kind of narrow sounding. It's a bit over compressed. It's got kind of a radio-like tone quality to it. It doesn't sound terrible, but it just doesn't have that professional glue with the rest of the beat that we're looking for. Listen one more time to how the vocals sound like they're coming out of a small speaker almost, and the rest of the beat sounds big and full.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed.
So the first thing I recommend if you're running into this problem is to take off the processing on the vocals and start from scratch. The reason for this is because most of the time when the vocal sounds like this, it's probably being over-processed already. And rather than trying to dig through and figure out what the problem is or adding more on top of it, just get rid of it and start from scratch. You're gonna have a much easier time getting to where you wanna go. So maybe save a copy of your session somewhere if you ever wanted to go back to it, but then just remove your processing. Now the one processor I'll leave on the track is generally the tuning, because this is not usually the problem in this case. It's usually the compression, the EQ, reverb, things like that. So we'll leave the tuning alone, and now we're gonna pull up Xvox Pro. So now that we have a clean vocal to work with, let's make sure we have the right goal in mind. This is really important in mixing in general, not just with vocals. If you're just pulling up plugins and turning knobs, you're probably not gonna get the result you want. Instead, it's important to have a goal in mind with the track. Think about what you want it to sound like, envision what it should be like in the rest of the mix, and then work to achieve that with your processing. So here's the question I always ask myself. Where is the pocket for the vocals in this mix? Every genre is a bit different. Some genres have very busy mixes and a very small pocket that the vocal has to fit in. If that's the case, then maybe a more radio-like processing on the vocal might actually work well. I find that most modern mixes have a pretty big pocket for the vocals, and this allows us to get that big, natural, larger-than-life vocal sound without conflicting with everything else in the mix. Like, listen to this beat. I'll mute the vocals and try to listen just for the pocket. Listen for the open space. So the answer to our question of what is the pocket for the vocals in this mix is it's really big, and we actually need to fill that pocket with the vocal in order to make it feel full, big, natural, and just glued with the rest of the mix. If we leave a lot of space around the vocal, it's going to sound small, and that's where we get that kind of separated sound. We need that vocal to fill the space and make it sound full. So let's go through the steps to achieve that. So I've loaded up Xvox Pro, and the first thing we're going to do is apply compression. This is how we're going to get that vocal to sit up front and give it that smooth character. Now I'm going to load up the smooth dynamics mode. This is one of my all-time favorite vocal compressors because it gives us that ultra smooth and detailed sound without sounding over compressed. Take a listen.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed. Feel stuck with me.
So already this vocal is taking up a lot more space. I'm generally reaching for somewhere in the 6 to 12 dB range on the gain reduction meter, but it doesn't quite have that sheen or polish on it yet. For that, we're gonna look at the tone section. Now here's an important thing to understand about vocals. Natural, raw, unprocessed vocals are generally gonna sound duller than the beat. This is because the beat is generally gonna have elements in it that have a lot more high frequency content, things like hi-hats, cymbals, synthesizers, and that in comparison to the vocal is going to make the vocal sound quite dull. So in order to get the vocal to match with the rest of the beat and therefore sound more natural, we actually need to add a lot of high end, but we have to do it very carefully so it doesn't sound tinny or harsh. So let's try that with Xvox Pro.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed. Feel stuck with me.
So with this modern mode, we're getting all of the brilliance of the high end without bringing up any harshness. And especially with this Air Plus slider, we're getting a ton of that super sizzly high end that sounds really nice in vocals, but we're not adding any harshness to the vocal itself. I've also pulled down the lows just a little bit, and I might even roll off some of these lows a little bit more.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress.
So that's perfect. The tone is much better matched with the beat now, but we now need to think about some of those high frequencies and trying to smooth them out, especially on the sibilance. We got to be careful that the sibilance doesn't get harsh, and so for that we're going to use the De-Esser.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed.
Now the De-Esser in Xvox Pro is super transparent and clean, which is exactly what you want in a De-Esser. And what it's doing is just controlling the high frequency S and T sounds, all the sibilance, and just naturally controlling that so it doesn't get harsh and it doesn't stick out too much. And you can see on the DS meter when it's actually working.
You treat me like a man to show respect.
So generally you just want to see that DS meter whenever there's an S or a T sound happening. If you're seeing it all the time, you might want to pull back on the De-Esser a bit. So take a listen before and after the dynamics and tone are dialed in.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress.
Already a night and day difference, but now let's take a look at some reverb and delay. This beat is pretty ambient. There's a lot of space happening with some of the pads and things like that. And so it'd be nice if the vocal kind of also felt like it was in a space more and not super dry. So for that, we're going to look at some reverb, and I'll play around with these different modes here. We might find some different reverbs that we like.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed. Feel stuck with.
I really like the plate on this one. It's just a nice, lush sounding plate, very rich in character. I'll also play with some delay.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed.
So this delay, which is matched to the plate reverb, sounds really nice. So here's a trick to make sure your reverb sounds super clear and don't get muddy. You can see here this little verb duck and delay duck. So what this does is it actually ducks the reverb or the delay out of the way of the dry vocal when it's there. This helps you keep all the articulation and clarity of the vocal while still having a massive space around it.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed. Feel.
So that way we have this massive space that sounds really nice, but we also have a super clear and upfront vocal. Now the final thing I might try with this vocal is just adding a little bit of chorus, just to add a little bit more size and body to it. Just a little bit of this analog modeled chorus can go a long way.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed. Feel.
So let's listen before and after Xvox Pro on this vocal.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress.
Now there's one more thing I'd like to do to this vocal, and that is a vocal ride. Now I can do it automatically with Xrider here. I'll pull it up last in the chain on the vocal, and then I'm just gonna play through the track and look at the waveform in Xrider.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck.
So we want to set this yellow line so that it's somewhere kind of towards the top of this waveform. And what we're kind of looking at is the true gain line, this blue line here. We want to make sure that that's kind of sometimes going up, sometimes going down. And that's going to mean that we have a pretty good target gain set.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress. Girl, I got you, I'm blessed.
So you can see that on the quieter words, it's turning it up, and on the louder words, it's turning it down. That's a perfect setting. Now we just want to dial this back a little bit on the max and min, because we don't want to overdo it. We don't want to, crank it up and then turn it way back down. We just want to subtly keep it more even.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress.
So now before and after Xvox Pro and Xrider.
You treat me like a man to show respect, so I kiss you all on your neck. Whatever you want, you get, just take it. You take away all my stress.
So now we're getting a huge, clear vocal that sounds incredible with this beat. The vocal is filling the pocket perfectly without overstepping onto the beat, and that's why we're getting that glued together sound. It doesn't sound separated anymore because the vocal is filling the space that it needs to in the mix. So to recap, if you find yourself working on a mix and the vocal starts to feel disjointed and disconnected from the rest of the track, start by taking off all the processing. Then listen to the rest of the mix and determine what is the pocket that the vocal needs to fill. Once you understand that, then try building your chain towards the goal you have in mind. Fill the pocket without overstepping onto the rest of the mix, and make sure that each processor that you add is actually getting you closer to that goal. Xvox Pro and Xrider make it super easy to dial in your vocals, and it has everything you need to get really any type of vocal you want, whether you want this big, clean, modern sound or a tighter, more vintage sound. Either way, you can dial it in super quickly and easily. So try this out in your next session. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe for more videos like this, and as always, happy mixing.